You're listening to the Amplify podcast, where we discuss topics related to being a student at the University of Michigan.
Hello, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Amplify podcast, where we will be discussing an incredibly important topic, diversity. As we know, UMich is an internationally recognized public university, and with an undergrad student body of 48,000 people from various backgrounds, roughly 8% of which are international students hailing from nearly 100 different countries, there are many cultural groups, clubs, and experiences available to us. We also recognize that while this episode's main focus is on cultural diversity, diversity in general is more complex than race and ethnicity, and future episodes will focus on other aspects of diversity, such as class and SES. Here with us today is a panel of undergrad students from various backgrounds to discuss their transition into the UMich community, both the challenges they've faced and the connections they've made.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Thomas Vance. I'm a senior in the College of LSA, double majoring in political science and Afro-American and African studies. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, which is easily the best city represented on this panel, and I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm also the speaker or president of the Black Student Union, and thank you to Amplify for having me.
Hello, everyone. This is Alaa Shahin, and I am a transfer student at the University of Michigan, studying computer science and minoring in entrepreneurship. I am originally from Syria, and I moved to the United States 4 years ago. And I'm glad to have you all here.
Hey everyone, my name is Megha Kunju. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a sophomore studying business with a minor in biochemistry. I'm from Northville, Michigan, so not as far. It's about 30 minutes here from Ann Arbor. And I am one of Optimize's challenge leads, and I'm also so happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Evelyn Reyes. I am a junior here at the University of Michigan in the College of LS&A. I'm majoring in organizational studies with a double minor in business and community action and social change. I proudly hail from Fresno, California, so shout out to all the West Coast folks. And on campus, I'm a part of Optimize, Mi Casa es Tu Casa, and a Latina sorority, which I'll be happy to share more later. But I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is about to be a really, really fun episode. So I think just to start off, our first question is, what was it like for you each when you came to the university for the first time? What was kind of the vibe, the experiences that you kind of saw and took away from your time coming here?
Yeah, so I can start. So I got recruited to debate for the University of Michigan, just kind of how I ended up in Ann Arbor. But my first year here was kind of defined by bias incidents. I remember I was in Intro to Africa and its diaspora, and one of the people I sat next to in class every day had the N word written on his door in West Quad on a whiteboard, and this is like 2017, fall 2017. And I kind of knew what I was getting myself into because the summer before I came to the university, I got a edition of the Michigan Daily in the mail, and it was 22 pages of bias incident and response. And like I tell people that, and it's like, no, that doesn't seem right. And I didn't think it seemed right either until I read the headlines for each, and I just kept flipping. It was just bias incident on top of bias incident. Um, and so I think when it was a jarring experience because I was like, well, yikes, bro. Like, they champion DE&I on the website, and I was just like, oh, there's a Black Student Union, so I know it's pretty lit. But the adjustment it was weird. And I went to a predominantly white private Catholic college preparatory school for high school. And so it wasn't like oh, there's a lot of white people here, but it was more of, I didn't get this level of racism in the South at school. And if this is the environment I'm walking into, it's going to be a doozy, and it's definitely been a doozy. But freshman year showed me kind of the lay of the land, and so I've just tried to work to better that and work for my community as I've progressed.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing with us, actually. And my personal experience was actually pretty good because I had the chance to live with three wonderful girls, actually, from three different backgrounds, which was super scary at the beginning because I was like, I'm originally from Syria. I moved to the United States. I know about diversity. I know about, like, different backgrounds, but I never lived with someone who was like having just different background from mine. So I was a little bit scared. At the same time, I was super curious to know about other like backgrounds. So I lived with the three different girls, which they are like from India and China, and Japan, which was super interesting. Like how we all like live at the same in the same like apartment, and we all share different backgrounds. So it was super like exciting to get to know them and live with them for 2 months before COVID-19 happened, which I was super glad to have that experience. At the same time, it was just like coming to the University of Michigan was just super how can I say this? It was super like not a challenging, but at the same time, it was something that I have to discover and do the effort to get to know like a different kind of people and different kind of backgrounds as a transfer student. Also, like being just I mean, a little bit different from other students as well on campus. But at the same time, it was super like excited. I was super excited just to know others because I believe like diversity and being diverse is just a very powerful thing to have as like person. And I think this is like a skills that we all like develop and improve while personally why I am right now at the University of Michigan. So this is my experience.
Yeah, I can jump in a little as well. So I'm from Metro Detroit area as well. So Michigan was always like something that was sort of like in my backyard in the sense that it was very close. But even then, I think you, or at least I myself, like underestimated how large the school really was. And it was something that, it was always my dream to come to U of M. And but I think actually stepping on campus and like seeing everything in person. This was 2019, so back when we were in person. But I think that's a whole new experience, and it can take a little time to find your communities. And I think that was initially what I struggled with is I wanted to find sort of my people in college, like you hear about or see in movies and books and stuff. And I think after I found that, my time got a lot easier. And so I have optimized to thank for that. And I'm part of a dance team here on campus, which really helped solidify that community aspect as well. But I think initially it can be a little scary to come to campus and realize that there's 40,000 other people who are also trying to find their communities. But I think once you really step out of your comfort zone and push yourself to go out there and find those people, Michigan is incredibly rewarding. And it's also been a huge learning experience for me too, like sort of what Alaa was saying. I've made friends with people of different backgrounds that I don't think I would have met if I didn't come to school here. Because I'm also from a pretty small town on like the suburbs of Detroit. So I've definitely learned a lot, and initially it was scary, but I think now I found my communities, and it's been really good.
Yeah, so I first arrived to Ann Arbor summer of 2018 through the Summer Bridge program. And I remember stepping foot on campus and just being, number one, completely confused because I had never visited campus before just because it was out of the budget to fly out here to just visit campus. So my previous knowledge was all Google Photos and everything I could find on the internet. So when I first got here, I remember the Uber dropped me off in Alice Lloyd near the housing for undergraduates. And I remember thinking that was the entire campus. And I thought that was huge. I was like, wow, this is a huge campus. I'm so excited to get to know everyone. And then someone gave me a tour of the campus and I just realized how big it was. And I kind of got a little nervous about how I was going to make friends because I was the only one coming from my city here. But fortunately, through like the summer bridge program, I was able to meet a lot of other students who are also first gen, who are also low income at Michigan, and it definitely made me feel a lot more comfortable to be here, because Ann Arbor is a lot different from Fresno in the sense that back at my high school, like white students were the minorities. Um, it was predominantly Black and Latinx students. So coming to Michigan, I knew I was going to be a minority, but I remember having a conversation with one of my Spanish teachers in high school, and I told her like I was so worried about coming here because I didn't want to feel left out. But something she told me was like, okay, if you don't decide to go there, then like those numbers are never going to truly grow, like the numbers of enrollment. So maybe your presence there will encourage future students from your same background to also think about Michigan as a place to call home. So that's something that really encouraged me to give Michigan a chance. And like, fortunately, I was able to find my people through Summer Bridge and later a Latinx orientation program called Alma. Um, but yeah, it's definitely has allowed me to be able to comfortably call Michigan my second home.
Thank you guys so much for sharing that. I just want to kind of ask a couple follow-up questions just to kind of dig at it a little bit more. Thomas, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned kind of having a lot of uh, racist interactions when you first came to the university. I wanted to know, as you've stayed on campus longer and you've gone through more of your college like duration, and you found more places, I guess, to call home on campus. Have you noticed any change in the campus culture, or do you still notice a lot of these same like offenses?
So I will clarify that it was things that I'd observed, not necessarily things that had happened to me. I think from what I've gathered, Trump in the 2016 election is what kind of emboldened and empowered a lot of people to behave in such a way. Um, as as I'm entering my senior year, I think I was really blessed to not, and I've been on the BSU, I've been an elected official on the BSU executive board since sophomore year, so sophomore, junior, and senior year. There weren't any big bias incidents that we had to mobilize for or respond to that I can recall. And we were worried about having to do that if we had the presidential debate on campus. But I don't think that there have been drastic shifts. I think the way that it's changed has been, students may not talk about it, may not say it, or may not be open about it, but I still think it exists in the back of their minds. And I still think that shows up in certain spaces. So, for example, why is it that, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery had to die over the summer for this to become some issue, for people to read a fucking book, for people to post a black tile on Instagram. Um, why is it that we still have to question the merits of affirmative action, or we still hold black students to a higher standard in the classroom of answering things right, or else they're deemed as not competent or only here because of affirmative action, even though it's illegal and unconstitutional in the state of Michigan, right? Um, I don't think there's been a drastic shift in campus culture. I just think a lot of people are being a little more quiet about it because they're worried about the radical liberal cancel culture, um, which is really less of a threat to someone's clout and more of a way to hold people accountable for having shitty hot takes.
Yeah, no, thanks, Thomas. Thanks for expanding upon that. And then Mega, I wanted to throw a question your way too. Um, you kind of talked a bit about having a bunch of different like either extracurriculars or um, organizations that you're part of on campus, and I just kind of wanted to ask, what do you think has contributed more to you finding sort of like a community here? Was it more those organizations, those after school activities, or was it kind of, I don't know, living situations, or just like your classes and your degree program? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think reflecting upon it, I really do want to say it's the student orgs that I'm a part of, because I think they open up, they just give me a new perspective that I don't think like academics and just where you're living can offer you. And it's like the students that make up student orgs are super special in the sense that you're all there for one reason, but you're all so different as well. And so you can learn so much from each other. And I think that unity over like shared core values and shared beliefs, but that diverse backgrounds is what really appeals to me the most. And I think that's the beauty of Optimize specifically, right? It's like everyone is here to make the world a better place. And that is our sort of unifying call, but everyone is so different. And it's beautiful to see how that can come together in just the most amazing way. And it's honestly what's allowed me to really like learn more about myself and learn more about the work that other people are doing. And just that unity through diversity, I think, was a huge piece of community that I didn't know I needed until I came to campus. Because I think in high school, you can be very isolated, and like, these are the people you've grown up with. You tend to stick with the people that, and you don't really step outside of that comfort zone because it's so comfortable. And then you come to college, and I think going to an extracurricular organization and really like finding your passion and then meeting other people with a similar passion that are different from you is really special. And I think that's really what has aided in me finding my communities.
Thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate the depth you guys brought to that question. So going forward, how do you feel the intersectionality of your personal identity has impacted your experience as a student at UMich? For example, I'm mixed, but I'm also a first generation student. I'm also a non-traditional student. And each of these things impacts my experience here at the university.
I can speak to that as well. So being Syrian and also speaking a different language, which is Arabic, and also like having experience, I moved to Malaysia for a year or so. And then I moved to the United States. Actually, having this, like identity as like Syrian, women as well, like Muslim, it actually impacted me in a way that I found myself like having confidence being diverse at the University of Michigan, because I felt that like having this background and also having the experience of like, different language, which is, like makes you think about others if they have like other, like language they speak with, it actually makes me like think that, this is like a power thing, or like having confidence in your background actually impacted me in a way that I felt that being at the University of Michigan gives me the power to be myself, and just to have that background especially gives me the power, to also tell others that, my background also affected me in a way that, I can be who I am at the University of Michigan without being shy, or without being, I speak different language, I have to speak in English in a very, a good way or anything like that. No, actually, it just makes me feel that, I have a different language, which is like makes me also having the power to speak in two language. So actually that's impacted me as, in a positive way, more than in a negative way, which I felt so welcomed, and especially as a transfer student. Also, this is part of my identity personally, and I am proud of being a transfer student. Actually, I felt so welcome I am a peer mentor for Transfer Connection. I'm also like a student, ambassador at the university too. So I felt so welcome from, like the transfer community at the University of Michigan. So I felt that, this is a confident having, that being a transfer student and having that confidence in you, and welcome also, being welcome from different communities, especially the transfer community, has impacted me a lot at the University of Michigan.
I can jump in a little for this question as well. I think I identify as a South Asian woman, and I feel like that intersectionality is most prevalent in my coursework, studying business, which is a traditionally male-dominated field. And I found myself, I remember like in high school, I didn't really think about my identity too much, but coming here, especially in my coursework, was very different. Like all of a sudden I was tasked with being a scribe in group settings, or like sort of having men speak over me and stuff like that. And that was not something I had thought was going to happen. And it's forced me to sort of push myself outside of my comfort zone and be assertive. That has been my goal for the past 2 years, is to like let my voice be heard. And I think, again, like really relying on those communities that I'm a part of, especially people with a shared identity to me, and like being able to have that discussion with them and like understanding each other has been really helpful, because I'm not the only person going through this. But yeah, definitely like coursework has been different with my identities, but my overall experience with University of Michigan has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, so I identify as a Mexican American, and also, as I shared previously, first generation student, low income, out of state. So I would say these identities have both positively and negatively impacted me. I'll start off with the positive. So when I first came to campus, I noticed that even if I was to speak Spanish, I would kind of get like looked at a little differently. So what I ended up doing was I actually ended up, I guess, diving more into my culture, because I would listen to a lot of English music back home. But once I came here, I felt like I needed some sort of way to not feel so homesick. So I actually started to listening to a lot more Spanish music. And like now I feel like on my playlist, like 70% of it is Spanish music. But I think for me, that was a way to stay connected to my roots, but also learn more about my identity, while finding friends who were also kind of in that same space of like exploring what it meant like to be Mexican American, or an identity with like a hyphen, right? So on the other end of things, I also noticed, like, given the identities I have, there were certain assumptions that would be made, and some were as like blunt, they were more so subtle. Like, for example, people would assume I'm from Chicago or Detroit. They'd be like, oh, Chicago or Detroit. And I'm like, no, I'm from Fresno, California, just because a lot of the Latinx population on this campus tends to come from those larger cities. So a lot of it was just really trying to make myself feel confident with my identities, and know that, yes, that sometimes might mean that you need to work harder in certain spaces to get the same respect that somebody would. But it also meant just being able to prove myself and be confident in spaces, knowing that, yes, I might be a minority and I might be the only person of color in that room for that class, but that doesn't make me any less, and it should more so make me feel empowered.
Yeah, so I think the only identity that's like truly mattered is my blackness. I am out of state. I'm from Atlanta, so anytime someone says their music is good or their food is better, it's not. It's unfortunate for them, but not for me. But when I got to Michigan, the VSU was at the top of my list. I wanted to learn about Black students, Black student activism. I wanted to learn about Black people, which is why I also took a major in the Department of Afro American African Studies, because that's a department that came out of Black student activism. And because I wanted a comprehensive, holistic understanding of Black history that I couldn't get in elementary school, that I couldn't get in high school. Um, I think as a Black man, though, I've really had to think about that in terms of my leadership position. So all of the speakers of the BSU that came before me weren't Black men. My freshman year was a Black woman. My sophomore and junior years, they were Black women. And so when I entered this role, I was like, well, shoot, like it's been a hot second since we've had a Black man in this position, and I didn't want that to turn anyone off to the BSU, and I didn't want that to impact who comes to our meetings, how they show up in our meetings. And so that's something I spent a lot of time thinking about this summer. Uh, and preparing to be the speaker is, how does my dominant identity as a Black male impact how the executive board sees me, how community members see me, what taking up space means for me, and working through that. Um, but I mean, my experience has been about working tirelessly for Black students. If that's care packages, if that's managing our budget, if that's helping with the book club, it's always been about Black students and helping those who may want to get to where I am or who aspire to me get there.
Thank you guys so much for that. Yeah, I think as we talk about intersectionality, it's easy to kind of boil everything down into one or two factors and kind of let everything else fall by the wayside. But when you really think about it, there's a lot of different aspects of our upbringing, our racial backgrounds, our whatever it may be that go into constructing who we are. And kind of based on that, Evelyn, I wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned earlier that a lot of times on campus, people will assume that you're from either Detroit or Chicago, because a lot of the Latinx population that's here on campus is from like one of those two cities or around that area. I wanted to ask, since the area that we're brought up in is such a huge influence on kind of the cultures we adopt, I wanted to know if you've found it to be a bit of a I don't know, I guess culture shock, for lack of a right term, kind of meeting up with other members of the Latinx community here in like, a more Midwestern, I guess, region, as opposed to like back where you're from out in like the West Coast.
Yeah, surprisingly, no, I haven't really experienced too much of a culture shock, just because, for example, some of my friends that are from Chicago grew up in neighborhoods that might have been predominantly like immigrant households. And that was very much the same for me, like in Fresno. Even though like my neighbors were all of like different race, ethnicities, they were all, I don't want to say all, but a lot of them came from immigrant backgrounds. So it was heartwarming in a sense to be able to relate to them despite it being different states and like different regions of the country. But something that I did find a little different was when they would talk about, for example, like housing segregation in like their cities, because it was very much not as evident in my hometown, but it did allow me an opportunity to learn more and be more educated about the different communities that Latinx students are coming from, because sometimes like as students of color, people want to put like this one experience over all of us, but they often fail to forget that we are coming from different cities, and as many similarities as we may share, there are still a lot of key differences that need to be like respected.
Yeah, thanks for that input. I think it's really good to kind of highlight that you can't take an entire race and look at it as a monolith. I think it's a very important thing to kind of remember. But moving on, Alaa, I wanted to ask you a question actually, because my mom is a immigrant herself. She came over around like her 20s. I know a lot of people who are immigrants and who kind of almost juggle kind of two aspects of their identities, where on the one hand you have your kind of cultural and your roots from like wherever you came from, and then on the other hand you have your almost like new identity as well, or the party that tries to fit into life in wherever in the United States you happen to be. And you mentioned earlier that you were born in Syria and like you're from Syria. So I wanted to kind of, and you speak two languages. I wanted to kind of pick your brain on like what it's been like to hold on to your cultural roots and your identity from being back home, but also kind of integrate and kind of be comfortable in sort of this environment here at UMich.
Yeah, this is a great question, Elias. Thank you so much for asking that. Actually, at the beginning, like 4 years ago, it was one of the most difficult things to be in a different environment, in a different culture. People, just like are different than you, right? They think differently. They, do stuff differently. So I was, like, this is where like my first year was, the most difficult year. And then after that, decided that, I want to be who I am, right? I don't want to be only who, like my role. This is what I want to keep holding on. At the same time, I want to be in with at the as at the University of Michigan specifically, I'm talking about in journal, like with American. I don't want to lose my identity. At the same time, I want to also be with Americans. I want to put myself out there. It was difficult speaking different language. It was difficult, just understanding how people, think about myself and how I do think about them as well. So it was super difficult at the beginning. And I had the time that's, like, oh, I just want to give up, and I don't want to do it anymore. And then I decided, no, I want to hold on my my community, my roots, and at the actually like at our house we only speak Arabic, so we don't speak English. We all speak English, but we decided to speak Arabic only, to keep our like language, to also save our culture. So I am different. I am totally different person at home than outside, because I only like do everything as like Arab and Muslim in my house. And then when I get out there, I keep that same identity, but I basically shift ears to accepting others, and also being very open to other cultures and backgrounds. And I think this is just like understanding your community. It also could be a beneficial thing to being in America. So it actually hits me a lot, and at the same time I found it very powerful things to have, as I mentioned at the beginning, having a different background than others here in America. And I believe that this is seriously what I live by, just keeping my culture and identity, and also being open to others.
Thank you, Alaa. That's beautiful. Yeah. Thanks for that that sort of perception of that. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. If you could tell me a little bit about the orgs that you're a part of right now. So it's like activities, anything that's affiliated with the university or just after school stuff. And how did you find the groups and clubs you're involved with now? And how has that impacted your experience being here at the university?
I can go first. So a couple of the student orgs I'm a part of, I've mentioned before, are Optimize. I'm on a dance team here, Michigan Thoughts, an Indian Fusion competitive dance team. And I'm also part of a business fraternity here on campus. And I would say that these orgs have made me really feel integrated to campus and campus culture. So initially, when I first entered the university, it took me a long time to figure out not only what I wanted to do, but feel as if I was adding value to the campus. I call that first semester my existential crisis year, because I was thinking a lot about like what I wanted to do, where I belonged, and really finding that community. And I looked towards student orgs to do that. And it took me a while to find ones that I wanted to be a part of. Optimize really sort of fell in my lap at the beginning of the semester, which is what I'm most grateful for. So I'm Festival was a huge event, and I'm hoping that next year that'll be in person, because that was really where I sort of met a lot of the different clubs. So I would say Optimize, and specifically my dance team, which are two completely different orgs, really helped me feel like I belonged here. Optimize in the sense that like I felt like I was really learning about what I wanted to do, which was how entrepreneurship can shape policy and can shape positive impact. And that was exactly what I wanted to do professionally. And then with the dance team, really feeling like I had a community of people with a similar background who could understand what I was going through. it also like connected me to my culture, to my roots. I was a dancer growing up. And so when I came to college, I thought I was going to leave that all behind and then realized I didn't want to. And so the dance team really kept me like integrated with my Indian identity, which is something I am so grateful for. And I think those two orgs specifically, while they're so different, really gave me the community that I needed. And in terms of finding orgs, I would say like as scary as it is, like talking to people and surfing through maze pages was also helpful, especially like I think in a virtual environment, surfing through maze pages, which can be a little tedious, but ultimately I think I gravitated towards student orgs because um, I loved the work that they were doing. I loved being connected to campus. And I think it's a great way to meet people, like I said before, who have similar passions to you, but come from different walks of life. And that was super instrumental to me. And I think that's ultimately what made me feel like I belonged here.
Yeah, so for me, student orgs were definitely like the ways I found my community on campus, and like even my roommates now, how I met a lot of them through. So when I first came to campus, I got really involved with La Casa, which is like the Latinx umbrella organization on campus, specifically their ALMA program, so like the orientation program for Latinx students. And yeah, through these programmings, I guess I just really learned a lot early on about like imposter syndrome and like early warnings about how to combat that. And I was also just exposed a lot more to, again, like finding this pride in your culture throughout college and not being afraid to hide it so much. And then throughout my freshman year, I found out about Optimize through various means, but I guess the one that I remember most is their Diag days, when they had like these really big boards and it said like, if you could change anything in the world, what would you change? And I remember one of the questions that was posed was, where do you feel inspired? And I was running late to class, but I was like, I'm gonna go right on the board. So I like stared at it for a while and I was like, I guess Fresno, like I feel inspired back home. And I later decided to join and by later, I mean a couple days later, decided to join the challenge with an idea of a nonprofit organization. And then that organization is now a official nonprofit. So it's been really cool to see how like an idea once formed into an actual organization called Mi Casa es Tu Casa, which is an educational outreach organization aimed to support first generation and low income high school students and their parents. And that organization was actually co-founded by a close friend of mine, Aisa, which I met during summer bridge. She was like my hallmate. So it was really just awesome to see that all come together. So a lot of the work that I do now is still with Mi Casa es Tu Casa, but I recently joined a Latina sorority, so Lambda Theta Alpha Land Sorority Incorporated. And if you would have talked to me 2 years ago, I would have sworn I've never would have wanted to go into Greek life. And I think a lot of that was because I had a lot of misunderstandings about what multicultural Greek life was on campus. I came into college not really knowing that that was even a thing, like a Latina sorority. All I really knew was what I saw in the movies on like Neighbors, and I was like, nope, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to focus on academics. But once I learned that like LTA was an academic sorority and they really valued like academics, but also culture and empowerment on campus and activism, like I really found that to be like my safe space on campus. So I decided to go through with that. And it's honestly been one of the best decisions of my life. And again, if you would have talked to me 2 years ago, this would not have been the story. But yeah, I really encourage anyone to get involved with organizations, because even in interviews that I reflect back on now, all of my experiences, I'm talking about student orgs. Like classes are great for content, but most of the knowledge and experience that I've gained has been through hands-on activities that I've been able to take part in, whether that was Optimize or Mi Casa es Tu Casa or Lambda Theta.
Yeah, to echo Evelyn's last point, being in a student org, especially in a leadership position, feels like a full-time job. But it's so rewarding and so worth it because the skills you gain, the people you meet, the conversations you have, depending on your student org, are really important. and pay dividends. I'm still on part of member of Michigan Debate. That kind of pays the bills. The other student org is the Black Student Union, which is really where my heart and really where my head is at. Seems like 24/7. Um, it's been pivotal to my Michigan experience because I've had an opportunity to, my first year, get a grasp on the community, get to know everyone, and then years 2 through 4 really work to give back to the community that welcomed me. And I feel like a lot of people may hear that and be like, "Yo, what the like, why did you take a leadership position as a sophomore when like you kind of didn't know anything?" And to be frank, it was because I wanted. It seemed like the BSU was the coolest organization who was really doing stuff for community members, who had the funds to contribute to community events, who had the executive board to execute big projects, um, who just had it seemed like they just had the talent. It's like that was where the party was at, the BSU executive board. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that after I went to the Black Solidarity Conference. Uh, what was that? Winter 2018. Um, and ever since I've been a part of it, I've just been able to like every day, especially this academic year, I've woken up and given back to community members. It's they're always in the front of my mind. Like you rarely see me without my BSU hat, hoodie, or T-shirt on, or anorak. That was e-board only because it means so much. And that can at times that's hard, like when you're working with the Office of Student Life and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and you're in meetings with people who make, $200,000-$300,000 a year, and you're asking for simple shit like, can you get rid of Sabra hummus because they're tied to human rights abuses in Palestine, and people are obtuse, and people say no, and you have to convince the person across the virtual table from you that your identity and your friend's identity matters. Um, the reason I use that example is because this year was the first year that the Students of Color Liberation Front was founded and became a thing. And as one of the founding members and one of the people who's been working in that space all year, it's been really nice because I've been able to build community and like engage in that like real rigorous relational solidarity that we talk about and we read about and we study. But it's a whole different thing when that's what you're doing every Saturday, and every week. And so I think being in the BSU and being in the Students Color Liberation Front has really showed me the not only the power of coalitions and the power of community building, but also what it looks like to really give back. It's one thing to do, a Habitat for Humanity project on a Saturday. It's another thing to, have a, every so often donation to Planned Parenthood. But it's a whole nother game when you are doing the work and making the change that you want to see and always plotting and scheming and strategizing to bring that about. And so while that student organization experience is a lot different than what a lot of people will experience at Michigan, being able to be a part of that has really shaped my Michigan experience.
For me, when I first, transferred to the University of Michigan back in winter 2020, it was a lot of overwhelming because I found that, oh wow, we have like, I know, like over 100 or something organization, and I felt super overwhelmed by the amount of, just time and effort that you have to do for an organization. And then I realized that, just being out there, it seriously shaped my skills. So for example, when I decided to just explore first of all, so I went to a bunch of festivals, and then I found that I started to pick like the organization that I'm interested in. So and then when I came back home, I was like, wow, I have all of the brochures to go over. It was just overwhelmed, so overwhelming. So I went to the transfer center back in in the LSA building, and I felt that, this is where I want to start. Because I am transfer student, I felt super like inspired being a transfer to the University of Michigan, and I, as mentioned, I felt welcome. So I started there, and then from there I explored more organizations such as Optimize, ISEG, also part of the hub opportunity. Also, there is an organization called Developer Students in the computer science field or technology field. Like just doing projects and challenges. So being part of all of these organization, it seriously gives me the chance to be myself, and also to develop my skills in a way that I felt that it's just giving me a lot of development personally and also educational, and I felt that organization, it's not about just being committed to a certain time of meetings or something. No, it's more than that. It's basically like, this is how I build my connection. It's not actually through classes. Through organization, I built my connection. I built my soft skills, like as a public speaking, making basically your networking bigger, and building that connection. I found it very powerful through the organization that I'm part of, rather than classes. And also I decided also to give back to the community, as Thomas said. So I became a peer mentor for transfer a student, also a students advisory team with the hub opportunity, where I can help students with their resumes, like cover letters, and like other stuff, as well as helping transfer students with their journey from one to another. And then specifically with Optimize, when I read that, like, why not me, about Optimize, it's basically just clicked in my mind, and I was like, yeah, why not me? So I felt that, yep, this is where I want to be. And also right now, being a part of the Optimize community, also, it just gives me that, like, I can do anything I want through that specific organization, at the same time changing the world by the challenge that we do. And yeah, giving back to the community, building skills, as well as making a connection. It was the three main keys that I gained from joining organization at the University of Michigan.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to jump on what Thomas said, and also what you echoed, Alaa, about that giving back to the community piece. That is exactly essentially what this podcast is aiming to do. I'm a transfer student. Elyas is a transfer student. We come from these different backgrounds. And I struggled a lot my first year at U of M, because I just really didn't have a lot of these answers and a lot of this guidance. And that is exactly what this podcast aims to do, and that we're trying to really give these incoming people from wherever they are from the opportunity to get some of these answers and hear from us as leaders, as people within the community already. And so I really appreciate all of your thoughts on this. And finally, for our last question, what advice do you have for students coming into the UMich community in regards to finding connections with classmates and embracing personal identity? Just any, last minute advice.
Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, it's important to be yourself to attract genuine friends. I'm a really goofy and awkward person, I have found, and honestly, I feel like for the longest I was trying to hide that, because I was trying to fit into like this mold I told myself was like an ideal friend or an ideal person. And then once I kind of pushed that aside, I feel that I was really able to more so like enjoy life and enjoy making actual authentic connections. And then the other thing I would say really quick is, don't say you're never going to do something, because you never know until you give it a try. And you don't want to be the first person to tell yourself no, because eventually there will be people down the road who will underestimate you and give you that no, but don't be the person who gives yourself no.
For me, I'll say, if you are trying to find connection with classmates, be yourself, which is really corny, but like, I watch TikTok comps on YouTube when I eat dinner at the grown ass age of 21. And when I'm in a Zoom breakout room and it's mad awkward, I'd be like, all right, what y'all TikTok algorithm look like? But that's me, and that's stuff that I do. I'm not saying you have to do that, especially if the worst is when the jokes don't land in class. I'm like, you just everybody be sitting there quiet, and the teacher's like, I don't get it. And some of your classmates get it, like some of your friends in the class get it, and they're like, oh, LMAO, and the teachers are like, well, what's so funny? Anywho, um, yeah, no, be yourself, do what you got to do to make friends. But don't try too hard. It'll come naturally. And then about in the context of embracing personal identity, like do not shy away from it. Like you can 1000% find a community that embraces that with open arms. Don't be worried about coming across as respectable or having to represent your entire racial group in a class, especially if you are underrepresented. Um, don't worry about having to come across a certain way to, make other people in your class feel comfortable. Just do your thing. Because at the end of the day, you paying to get a degree. The shit's mad expensive, especially if you're out of state. The tuition bill high. So make the most of it. You can't be you can't be appeasing other people. They're not paying for your way. You're paying for your way. Um, and hey, it's as simple as that. Do you be great and make some shake.
Yeah, I would give. I remember when first, get into the University of Michigan. There's a friend of mine said to me, "Embrace UFM as you would the new home," and that seriously go as was like, wow, seriously, yeah. And I basically started to trade, like UFM, the opportunity that I have, all everything as like my new home, and I put myself out there. So the advice I would give to the students is basically putting yourself out there. Don't be shy or afraid to speak up or to try new things or to apply to opportunities. I have seriously applied to a bunch of opportunities, and as Evelyn said, that's I was afraid. Oh, do you think, like, I would ask myself, oh, do you think you would be a good fit for this position? When I asked myself that question, I was like, you know what? Yes, you are. Just try it out. If it worked, that would be great. If not, you learned. And I basically, this is how I learned this through my 1 year and a half at the University of Michigan. And since then, I seriously, right now, like, I'm involved in many organizations. I have a bunch of leadership also experience with that, and this is how I do it. Just putting myself out there, and this is how I encourage everyone to be themselves, as everyone said also, and put yourself out there and make the most of it. Seriously, this is your time to be yourself. This is the time at the University of Michigan. Not only I feel like it's only 2 years, but seriously, I was like, this is my time. This is where I wanna, and this time where I wanna make the most of it. I wanna learn. I wanna meet people. I wanna grow, and then it's actually giving me a lot of experience. And this is what I encourage everyone to do as well.
Yeah, Alaa's so right. Like, this is your time. I would say my advice is shoot your shot. That's something I've really embraced coming here. And like, even if it's like a tickle in the back of your mind, shoot your shot. Like, do what you need to do and stand up for yourself. And that's probably the scariest thing, is that, like, it's so easy to people please and, ding yourself so other people are comfortable. No, like, bump that. Stand up for yourself and shoot your shot, because, and Thomas said this beautifully, like, you are here for you, like, right? Like, pave your own way. And at the end of the day, like, you are the best, right? And your identity and shapes who you are. And so be proud of where you come from. Be proud of what you stand for and what you believe in. Stand up for yourself, because, like, that's what we're all here to do. And if you do that, if you shoot your shot and stand up for yourself, I really think that you will have a great experience here, and you'll find the people that you gel with. And especially in a virtual environment, like, shooting your shot can be like sending a comment in the chat and like the Zoom chat or something, or being the first one to speak in a Zoom breakout room. But I think it pays off. It really does. And I know that you'll find your people if you do those things. And I think everyone else's advice was so beautiful as well. But yeah, you know that you always have people here that are rooting for you and that are here for you and want you to succeed.
I want to just say one last sentence is that someone also said that to me, and I would say to everyone, you are here for a reason. Make that happen. And seriously, you are here for a reason. We all think that's, oh, how did I get accepted by the University of Michigan? You know, it's a big thing and stuff. And I think the same thing too, but I am here for a reason. Find that reason and work it out. So yeah.
I'm so happy that kind of in everybody's statement, touching on like the importance of authenticity and being like true to yourself was one of the most important things. Because I feel like for anybody coming to a place that's as big and as I guess like culturally powerful, if that makes sense, as the U of M can be and the city of Ann Arbor can be, I feel like it's kind of easy to kind of have your own way of life or your own sort of personality kind of get suppressed by like conforming to the broader whole of the student body here at UMich. Unfortunately, I think that's all the time that we're going to have for today. We hope that these stories and advice will help you grow and learn while you come to the University of Michigan or you continue your journey at the University of Michigan. With so many challenges, both internal and external, please know that no one's alone in this journey. If you're listening on YouTube, links to all the resources and the organizations mentioned in this episode and the cool things that our panel is working on will be linked in the description below. Again, shout out to our wonderful panel. Thank you guys so much for coming here today and for exploring your experiences with us. I think a lot of people are going to be able to get a lot of value out of that. So thank you so much.
The Amplify podcast is supported by Optimize, an organization here at U of M that empowers students to be creative in how we serve each other and our communities near and far. To learn more about Optimize programming, please visit optimizemi.org. If you have topics you would like to hear discussed, let us know at optimizemi@umich.edu. Thanks and be well.